Hello, hello. My name is Josh Swartzentruber. I thought I would take some time and just sit down and talk about some of the gun violence, especially the school shootings. And I thought it'd be maybe interesting. So I grew up Swartzentruber Amish, very strict old order Amish. And that's kind of what our channel is about. If you're new to our channel, you can check it out. Got some videos on there that we're doing about the Amish life. But as I think about, and you keep hearing about these shootings, these mass shootings, these school shootings, I just had to stop and think, okay, what about the Amish? What about where I'm from? Or the Mennonite, any of those religious groups or cults, some might call them, or whatever they are. Obviously, first of all, I just want to say, I'm not here to bash the Amish. There's some negative things about them I don't like, but there's also a lot of good things. There's a lot of things that I'm grateful for that I learned growing up that way. But I am not there anymore because I didn't agree with the rules and I had different dreams. So that's me. But if you think about, I wanted to say, I have a very weird goal. My goal is to talk about guns a little bit, gun control, and which sort of gets you into politics. It shouldn't, but it does. But I guess it's a reality of one side of politics always has different opinion about guns than the other side. But I thought I would like a goal to talk about those things without offending somebody. Like, seriously, if that's possible, I don't know. But why don't we just consider what I'm going to say? Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'm full of crap. Maybe you agree. Maybe you don't agree. It really doesn't matter. This is just my opinion of what I think. And some of the things are facts. And those are like, in this world, what we call the English world, in America, there's a lot of school shootings. When you look at the Amish and the Mennonite, I'm going to mostly talk about the Amish. That's where I come from. They don't exist. So I thought, what if we look at that and say, okay, well, we could make a case study out of that. Why are they not happening among the Amish? If in America we have this big gun problem where kids, teenagers are going into schools and shooting in America here, but yet there's a group of people, literally millions of them, who have their own schools full of kids, and yet not one of their own walk in there with a gun and shoot. I said their own because, yes, there was one in Pennsylvania years ago that was a English person, not Amish. But there's no Amish kid that I've ever heard of. And by the way, the murder rate among the Amish is pretty much 0 to none. And that's good. They have their own problems. They have other problems. But that's the one thing, or one of the few things that they have right. There's almost no murder among the Amish. Now, do they have guns? Yes, they do. Do they have AR-15s? No, not in general. I'm sure there's some that do, but in the old order, the strict Amish where I'm from, we were allowed shotguns and rifles. We were not allowed a pistol. Does that mean that that's why there's no crime? Because no. That's not the case. It just can't be. I mean, it just wouldn't match up. So why is it? What's the difference? What has changed? And you could also go way back throughout history. There's always been murders. There's always been crime. But people taking an AR-15 and going into a school didn't exist or didn't happen. Now, was there AR-15 many years ago? I'm not sure actually. Well, I know they were banned from, 1995 to something, maybe 03, I want to say. But I'll tell you what did change is, I guess my point is, and in case you haven't noticed yet, I don't think the gun is the problem. We could argue, or we could talk about if banning the guns will help, making it harder for people to get a gun, all of those things. And by the way, if you want to get into politics, I'm just going to say it for the record. I'm neither Republican or Democrat. I enjoy something that I learned from Robert Kiyosaki that says a coin actually has 3 sides. People think they only have 2. There's actually 3. There's the heads, there's tails, and then there's the edge. I enjoy sitting on the edge here, what I call being in the middle, and look down. Here's the Republicans fighting, here's the Democrats fighting, and I'm just in the middle there laughing at them all and wishing we would stop fighting and hating each other and wishing we could get along. And even if we don't agree, we can disagree on so many things. We should still be able to be friends and talk to each other and just work out the differences and be okay with each other rather than wanting to kill each other or hate each other. That's my opinion. So, with that being said, I do support the Second Amendment. Or I believe that there's a reason we have it, and I believe there's a reason we should keep it. And you can just look at a recent event like Ukraine, where they're asking for weapons to defend themselves from a foreign government, Russia, which tells us they didn't have enough guns. That's why they need it more. If a country tries to invade America, they know they can't do that, especially not with arms, because we got millions and millions of Americans with guns who can defend themselves. So, we could say, well, if we get rid of these AR-15s, then we won't have the opportunity for a kid to take that gun and go shoot. That's actually true. If we can get rid of them, that makes sense. That's true. How easy is it to do that? That would be very hard to do. But at the meantime, what if all of a sudden we have a government that tries to control the people and abuse the people, and now the people don't have the opportunity, the people don't have the capability of defending themselves against that government or a foreign government. So I think we should just look at the Second Amendment, look at why it was put in place, what the wordings are in there, and consider that might not be something to just wipe away. That's my opinion. You may not agree, that's fine. It's just my opinion. The other thing I like to look at it is a person who is willing to go and shoot a bunch of other people, like a mass shooter. What kind of issues does that person have? Because a normal, good citizen doesn't do that. So my opinion is you have to be very cold-hearted. You have to be most likely been abused, lonely. I mean, I've looked a little bit at a track record of some of these shooters. Most of the time, you'll find pretty quick that they grew up without a father in the home. There's some really good evidence out there to suggest that having a father in the home is very important for the development of kids. You can disagree if you want to, but that's just the facts. So maybe that's the problem. Now let's take that with the Amish. The Amish are not allowed to get a divorce. Do I agree that you should always stay married if you don't get along and you fight each other? Probably not. You should probably get help and fix it. But is that their solution? Is that helping? The other thing is they do teach the fear of God. So you don't believe in God? Okay, well, that's your business. But maybe that's what's helping them. And by that I mean that they teach their children that there's consequences. If you do something like that, there's some harsh consequences. And by that I mean going to hell and burning for eternity. That's what they teach. Is that wrong or right? I have my opinion. You probably have yours. But maybe that's what's helping. The other thing is they don't play video games. Maybe that's helping. They don't watch violent movies that exposes the kids at a pretty young age to seeing people being killed. I remember actually, I think it was about 10 years old. We had a neighbor that was English, not Amish, and he was disabled. And so every day we would go and get his mail and take it in the house for him. And of course, those boys loved doing that because we would get to watch some TV. We didn't have TV, obviously. So he always had his TV on, and he was a military. We didn't know much about the military, so I don't know. I want to say he was a Marine, but I'm not sure where I learned that. But I believe also that's why he was disabled. It's kind of interesting. Now I wish I would know more about him. His name was Randy. I remember that. But anyways, my point is I remember seeing on his TV somebody get shot. Like he was always watching these military war movies. And so I could go on a rabbit trail with my thoughts, but I don't want to. But anyways, I saw somebody get shot, and it haunted me for days. I was like, people do that? I mean, yeah, I grew up on a farm where we would butcher animals, so shooting a pig was nothing new. But people, like, you would kill a like, I just couldn't get, my brain was just smoking. Like, this can't be real. Like, it was just crazy to me. And, you know, now I'm aware of it. And at some point, we're all going to be aware of it. But maybe a young child shouldn't be, or at least not see it so often that they get almost immune to it, I guess you could say, where they think, oh, that's just normal. And I really think, my personal opinion is, a lot of these problems are video games. These teenagers are playing video games, you know, day after day, hour after hour, where they're just shooting each other in the game, or shooting some other form of human beings or something in those games. So now what? Do you ban all video games? That seems like a tough one, but I think it really comes down to parenting. Now, some might get offended. Oh, so it's the parent's fault. Well, I guess, yeah. If the parents get a divorce, and now the father is no longer the picture, or the man gets a woman pregnant and he don't want to be involved with the child, and now the child grows up in a single home and feels abandoned and unloved and wondering, you know, why don't I have a daddy? They're over there playing with their daddy. Their daddy comes to the football games at night. Their daddy takes them to the dance. Their daddy hangs out. Their daddy takes them fishing. Where's my daddy? I guess there's something wrong with me. And that starts to creep into where they built hate and all that stuff. So who are we to blame? Oops, now I'm really getting into it. But who's at fault here? Who are we to blame? So at some point, we got to be willing to say, okay, here's a problem, and then come up with a solution. And again, if you think banning guns will help, and I'm not arguing that it won't help, I just think the consequences of that may be even worse later in life. And the other thing that I was trying to get to is, if we can take the person who is cold-hearted enough and hurt enough, abused and lonely and rejected and all of those things they're feeling, that puts them in a category that they're willing, and whether it's playing video games and whatever all it took to bring them into this person that they're willing to go shoot a bunch of kids. Because again, like I said, a normal human being doesn't do that. Generally, human beings are good people. I really believe that. They want to be good people. So, of course, somebody, and I may agree with this, that the devil influenced them. The demonic influence, you know. Whatever that is. If we can take that out of that person, where that person now feels loved, they feel not abandoned, they don't feel hurt, they don't feel abused. And if there's demonic forces, you know, get rid of all of that. What have we done? That same person who's willing to go shoot people, what's that same person likely to do? Go steal, rape a woman, murder one person versus a whole bunch, and maybe get away with it for a while? They never get away with it forever. How much more evil and damage does that person do to society? I'm not suggesting they always do that. I know people who were horribly abused, who were great people, have changed their life around. It's very possible. So I'm not saying that everybody who is abused or hurt ends up doing that, but it seems to be the case, and this is very much facts, that oftentimes is the case. So again, hold on, I do have to keep my throat dry. My favorite drink, and this video is not sponsored by that. But again, if we can solve all the other problems that person has, and not even banning guns, we have solved so much more. Like, I'm talking about, can we just get rid of all evil? Maybe instead of saying, well, let's just get rid of all guns in America and this problem goes away, what if we get rid of all evil? You know, if there was no evil, there would be no evil police officers who used and abused their power. There would be no evil president. There would be no evil people in, you know, Congress or in Senate. I'm not even thinking of any individual person. I'm just saying, I mean, you can think of some. But evil itself, people that are cold-hearted and do bad stuff, if we could fix that, if we could look at collectively as a country, what is causing this? And again, remember I said I was going to talk about the Amish, and I'm not talking about it much, but yes, I have talked about recently, there's a lot of abuse among the Amish, a lot of sexual abuse and incest and rape that needs to be corrected. And there's people who are doing something about it. That's great. But again, why don't we put politics aside, simmer down the emotions, the anti-gun or pro-gun both people, and just, wait, what's the problem? And then if we could just focus, but it really frustrates me when I see when a shooting happens, and then afterwards they're having town hall meetings and news media is having meetings, they're calling out senators and stuff, and man, I remember it happened in Florida. What are you going to do about guns? They're grilling, what was his name, Marco Rubio, about taking money from the NRA, and what are you going to do? Like, this needs to stop, this is so bad. And it hit me as I'm watching this, and not a single person in this whole time, nobody in the news talks about, wait, what is going on in America that causes this kind of stuff to happen? And I believe some of this is the news knows that if they talk about guns, that's going to get more views. So they're going to do that. That's also sad. Because if they really care about America, why don't we look at what's the root problem? What is the root problem? If we could focus on that, if we could have CNN and Fox and MSNBC and the whole member of Congress would all, have meetings and interview people and say, hey, what's the problem? There was the one guy was on CNN and he said, well, he thinks we should have our kids guarded with armed security like we do member of Congress. Or he said, they're at CNN. They are guarded by armed security at CNN headquarters. Makes sense. Why are their kids not? Well, I 100% agree with that. And so the lady says, oh, so the solution is more guns. Can you just stop saying that stupid word? It's a good guy with a gun to stop a bad guy with a gun. How does that not make sense? I don't care. You can be anti-gun and hate guns and want to wipe out the Second Amendment. That's fine. I don't care. It still logically makes sense that there's a good guy with a gun there to stop the bad guy with a gun versus the good guys with a gun showing up 3 minutes later after the bad guy with a gun has shot a bunch of people and then go take him down. This is just logic. And I wish we could be willing to say, I still think we should ban all guns, but I agree with that assessment, that idea, until we get to that. Why can't we do that? But again, this interview with this lady on CNN is, she doesn't ask him, is there something we could do as a society besides banning guns to make this better? They don't ask that question. Unless I just don't see it, but I've never seen it. I can't think of one time seeing any articles, posts on social media or news, people on the news talk about a deeper problem. I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure there's people that were asked a question and they say, well, there's more to it. But generally speaking, whenever this happens, there's a lot of talk about the guns. And it's really sad to me that that's the main focus. Because what you have is a person with a gun. And I would like to find out why that person decided to take that gun and do that. And if we can find that out, then we can say, okay, let's try our best to make sure that we don't produce, the weird word, more people like that. And people that have this problem. And by the way, I know there's people working on that. I do know that. There's a lot of work being done to stop bullying, to stop the hate comments on YouTube, and the ones that I'll get in this video. Bring them on. I don't care. You can disagree with me, by the way. I want to hear your comments, by the way. Just bring it on. But if you make it too bad, YouTube's not going to let you. It's not going to be public if you use bad words anyways. YouTube will block those. Just say it. But just get to the real problem and do something about that. And again, let's look at the Amish and say, okay, they don't play video games. They don't watch TV. The kids, the teenagers are out working. They're doing stuff. Okay. They do teach that there's consequences to bad action. By the way, even if you don't believe in God or there's a hell, you still should teach your kids that there's consequences to bad actions, because there are. Prison, okay? And in a nutshell, I think that to me is the problem between fatherlessness, abandonment by fathers, abusive fathers, and also sometimes moms, and video games that are very violent movies. Those are the things that I think. Okay, that's my opinion. That's what I think. And I do think that it is also not the government's job to... They should look at that and try to influence it. Maybe not without a law, but influence it. But it comes down to the parents. I'm responsible for my parents. Now, for my children, when they're old or at a teenager, and if they decide to do something evil, I can't control that, but it's my job as a parent to raise them in a way with the best of my ability and the best of my knowledge to make sure that that doesn't happen. And so what I'm going to do is not let them play violent video games. We don't watch violent movies in front of them. And we teach them that there's consequences. And we love them. We're a family of a husband and wife. And we love them. We cherish them. We build a connection with them so that they grow up good citizens. And that's my message. And I believe if everybody would do that, this world would be a complete different place. I believe it was Mother Teresa that said, if you want to change the world, go home and love your family. And I stand by that. You love your family. They grow up. They love their family. Change the world. So, that being said, thank you for watching. Have a good one.